What is up, everybody? In the last video you guys saw me absolutely struggle getting the bearing off of my drive shaft, but in today's video we are going to finish off the drive shaft for my BMW E30. All that in today's episode. My name is Ryan, this is Project Race Car. Let's get into it. So first off, I want to say thank you guys so much for all the love on the last video. You guys killed it. So I just wanted to say thank you. I appreciate you a ton. If you guys are new here, I am doing a case swap on my BMW E30, and we are getting closer and closer to the first start. And today we are going to be finishing up the drivetrain and trying to finish underneath the car. So we will be installing the drive shaft today, and then also we need to do the slave cylinder for the transmission, and then we will be replacing the guibo, and then I'm using the my old E30 center support bearing. It didn't show any signs of wear. The bearing actually seems really good, so if it has problems, I'll just easily replace it. A lot of these parts need to be cleaned and just made sure that it's not gonna seize again on me, because that was a pain to get off. So like I've mentioned before, if you are doing a case swap on your E30 and you are using the 325i transmission, you won't need to get a new drive shaft or anything like that. It can just use the stock drive shaft and the stock transmission. However, I am doing a ZF transmission because it holds a bit more power than the stock 318IS transmission, so I had to do the upgrade because I'm going to be going turbo. But what's nice about this kit is that if you guys just have a 325i, the transmission will be able to handle up to 400 horsepower. So I found this hat, which was from this bearing, and it doesn't fit in this side. So that means that it has to fit in this side, and then this hat fits on this side, and you can see that there's an outline from the old C-clamp, so that means that this is the outside. So the bearing's going to fit on like this as I drop the hat. And we're just going to make sure that this seats properly. That seems like it's not fitting on, so okay, it looks like there's a notch in the actual thing, so I'm gonna try to file this down. Cool, let's see if we can actually get this guibo off. It's a good time to replace it because these things wear down, and just with overtime the rubber becomes deteriorated. And get these guys tightened back up. So before we, this feels very crooked. So before we go ahead and get the bearing, I decided that I'm just going to put on the new slave cylinder. So we're going to get underneath the car and just try to put this bad boy on. These things are a pain to bleed, so I'm hoping that it doesn't take that long to bleed. So cool thing is, we get to work right in that area. So the slave cylinders on the BMWs are just a pain. So we will kind of just be working in that area. I'm gonna try to fit it on and just make sure that there won't be any issues with the lines, and try to just work from there. I won't be able to get great footage because it's just a pain, so we're going to try to do this a little bit off camera, but I will give you guys updates. So it actually kind of worried me for a second because I thought that I wouldn't be able to get the slave cylinder in after the fact, but you can. You just have to be very careful with it. And what you want to make sure when you're getting this set is that the actual pivot ball is getting on the clutch fork, so that it actually engages the clutch. Otherwise it won't work and you will have to pull it off and set it. And getting in this 1.5 inches of clearance and trying to get the thing on is just terrible. So they of course didn't widen the chassis at this point. So they could have made a bigger trans tunnel, but they decided to make it painful. So if you guys have ever worked under your car or on the slave cylinder, it does suck without a lift. So, but it's what you gotta do when you wanna do cool race car things, but you don't got money. So I actually got the top one on. I would highly recommend doing this before you actually put the drive shaft on, because you'll have a bit more room to get a extension on, but you're gonna have to push the slave cylinder in against its own tension to get the top bolt on. So there's 2 bolts, and then I was able to just bend the old E30 one, the old E30 line, and I was just able to bend it enough to clear and actually work up to the new E36 slave cylinder. Oh god, the slave cylinder. So I'm going to make sure that this actually spins, and if not, we will get a new one. But I'm going to work this on. Okay, I think the worst part about working underneath the car is all the dirt and dust that gets in your eyes. But on the plus side, check this out. So here's our clutch line, and I got this all routed. So you can see that it's not touching the firewall, which is good, and it is gluten tight. So I made sure to, we should be able to bleed this now, add fluid and bleed it. So hopefully everything is all good, and it shouldn't be too much of a pain to bleed. That's the hope, at least. I have still not filled the transmission with fluid yet, so we will also need to do that. The fill side is on this side, and we will just pop this guy out and fill it with transmission fluid. So if you guys are actually planning on doing a ZF swap in your E30, make sure to get the drive shaft. You'll also need the shifting linkage from the ZF transmission. And then those are the 2 big ones, and then you'll need a slave cylinder from a ZF transmission, and that should be the 3 main things. Everything else is the diff, and everything is still E30. Okay, they are really not messing around with how tight this bearing is, so now I see why it was such a difficult task to get off. What I'm doing right now is I'm just pushing it to one side and then hammering it on, and just trying to do even all the way around. That way it sits nice and flush. And all we need to do is get it on enough to clear the C-clip, and then we are all good to go. What I did was I put the E30 center support bearing on there. What I first noticed after installing it is that there is some dry rot in the actual boot that I didn't notice when I first put it on. So, you know, a couple clutch dumps and that thing is going to be torn. So the other thing is that this isn't moving as freely as I want it to, and so I decided that it just didn't go on well enough to actually call it good. So I decided to actually order a full new unit. So I'm waiting for that to get in, and then once that is in, we will be able to slap it on and put the drive shaft together. Now, I have done a lot of projects for cars, and one thing that I've realized is that if you don't do it correctly in the first place, you are just going to be doing it a second time around, and sometimes sooner than not. But I know that it's just going to cause me trouble in the future, so I decided to take a step back and do it properly. So we ordered all new parts, The drive shaft bolts will also be coming in that shipment, so we'll be able to slap everything together and get it actually in the car and then get the car back on the ground. What we are also going to do today, I need to change the oil on this bad boy, and we're trying to get it to cool off. So I'm just going to throw the fan on there and really just cool this off a little bit quicker than hopefully normal. I also noticed that the tires are rubbing a little bit more in the front than in the rear, so I'm gonna do a tire rotation and just swap everything around. So I will be doing that and while the engine is cooling off, so hopefully I can get like a little time lapse and you guys can see that. But sometimes you want to make good progress on the project car, but you don't want to rush anything and you want to actually take your time. And sometimes you just get frustrated, and that's just how it goes. So we are gonna just keep moving along and keep trucking and just keep processing. So we are also gonna be getting a bearing puller. Didn't know that there was a specific one for that type of bearing, so we will be getting that to get the old bearing off. So from what I've seen, it says that the all-wheel drive cars can wear down tires faster and unevenly, and the uneven wear is actually quite noticeable. So you can see the wear on this actual section right here, but not on this middle section. So it kind of comes out and down. But what's interesting is looking at the actual tire that we're going to be swapping it with. This one was on the front, and it has more wear on the inside, whereas the other one had more wear on the outside. So I probably should have done this sooner, but what can you do? I neglect the Honda all the time. So this video is nothing like I first intended it to be, but I hope you guys enjoyed some of the content. I know that once the parts get in and we can make progress on the drive shaft, it will go a lot smoother. So hopefully that will be in next week from this video. But if you guys did enjoy, a like would be amazing. Subscribe to the channel would be awesome. And until next time, my name is Ryan. This is Project Race Car. Have an amazing day. Peace.